What strange thing did you find out about someone else that they thought was perfectly normal? There was this guy I went to college with. When he was in the shower, if the urge hit him, he would just take a shit in the shower instead of getting out to use the toilet. He did this the whole time he was a kid apparently, and it wasn't till he got to college and had to share bathroom facilities that he found out other people showering in adjacent stalls weren't cool with smelling chassis waffle stomped a log down the drain. I was talking to my husband on the phone and he told me to hang on. He had to put his clothes back on. He was at work. I asked what the hell he was doing and apparently he always takes all his clothes off to take a dump, even at work. I knew he did it at home but he always would then get in the shower after, so I figured it was just a preface to showering. He said he balances them over the stall door so they don't get poop particles on them. I told him no one else does this. He didn't notice because in the men's room he's used for the last 10 years there's only one stall. I'm not sure why no colleague ever asked him why he's hanging clothes over the stall door. I worked with a guy who had some kind of gut problem and he'd be sitting at his desk and vomit into a cup. Not a lot, but like a verb, a few times a day, even in meetings. Finally, his boss talked to him and said that was not cool, and he should see a doctor. The guy was surprised. Why? He asked. He apparently had been doing this all his life. He went to a doctor, and what you know, they had medicine for his condition. The guy grew up in some country where his condition was never addressed, either because of poverty or neglect, probably both, but the damage was already done. Everyone avoided the vomit guy. He was eventually let go. So, I asked a friend I had from those days and he said this guy was from the Ukraine and part of a temp workforce from some agency that they hired for domestic help desk until they got permanent staff. I didn't interact with him much, but the first verp in a cup I saw the guy do was in the office kitchen. I assumed it was chewing tobacco, which I thought, wow, crude, and didn't connect the vomit smell to him because sometimes the office kitchen smelled like that when they purged the automatic coffee machines. He looked a little touched. His eyes were just far apart enough to look off, although not like Down syndrome. His teeth were short, widely spaced apart, and uneven, like chiclets. He also had Vulcan-like eyebrows, dressed real nice, though. Bright white starched shirts and undershirt where everyone was wearing t-shirts and jeans. He was working there about a month when other employees start talking about him and I learned it was verps, a term we stole from Tim Allen during his stand-up days, and not sure. He used disposable cups from the office kitchen and threw them out every day, but it was still so nasty when there were 30 people packed in a meeting room and he'd randomly go, blwep and spit it out. His boss said she'd have a word with him. She came to us later and explained that she spoke with him about the vomit thing and his response was a surprised, "Really? You think I should see a doctor about this?" Yes you should. That's not normal at all. Wow. Huh. Okay boss. And he did. And he got meds, like it never occurred to him before. He was pretty happy about it, too. Like this is a curable condition. I have been living with this since I was a child, but our town didn't have a good doctor. This doctor gave me these meds. I don't know what he had or what meds they gave him. I don't know why it didn't occur to him not to see a doctor when he got to the US, and I believe he had only been in the US for a few years. Was he fired because of this? Who knows? But no one wanted to be around the guy who unsuccessfully tried to cover up the smell with some fierce cologne. And it was sad, too, because he was a friendly dude, but also had some kind of limit with personal space, like he'd talk to you an inch or so from your face, and follow you that way even when you backed up. His boss talked to him about that, too, and he stopped, again, because he didn't know. I really think he was slightly mentally challenged, but also didn't have decent social skills, because he did try and improve himself once someone told him not to do something. Either he was let go because his contract expired, we stopped using that temp agency, or most likely, part of the constant layoffs we had as part of a if you want to get rid of people, just tack them on the next round policy the company had. We had, on average 2-3 of these layoffs a year. A friend told me about her roommate who keeps a large bin full of bread under her bed. Every week, she buys a new loaf and adds it to the bin. She doesn't actually eat that much bread, but has a huge bin full. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend recently about sleep paralysis, general sleep problems. I asked her, You know that feeling when you wake up with tears running down your face and realize you had been crying in your sleep? He replied, no. Are you okay? I have a friend who has lost an immense amount of weight, yet eats and drinks like crap all the time. It had been revealed to me by him that he often feels so full sometimes that he just makes himself puke to feel better. This has been going on for quite a few years now. He's straight up bulimic and thinks it's just a neat little way to get rid of all the bad foods and drinks he gorges himself with. He's gotten so good at making himself puke, it's almost silent. No gagging sounds, no messy puke splatter. Just a stream of chewed up food and beers. I'm quite sure that even his wife is oblivious to this. My friend last night was like, you know when you think you're starting to get sick and you're super tired, your nose is runny, and your throat is phlegmy, and we're all like, yeah, and she says, and then your hands go completely numb, and we're all like, nope, that's definitely just you. They carried a pizza box sideways under their arm. Wow. I'm so glad it made other people as uneasy as it made me. It was a neighbor at a neighborhood pizza party that was kinda strange already. Every time someone talks about him I'm like, I knew he was strange since the pizza box incident. My roommate in college thought you washed clothes on every single cycle on the washing machine. Our machine had a delicate cycle, a cotton cycle, a solo rinse cycle, a permanent press cycle, etc. He always complained about the washer taking forever. It's because he was washing his clothes 4-5 times every time he did laundry. I had a friend whose parents would buy a gallon of whole milk and pour half the gallon in another jug, then mix water into both to dilute it. She always just thought that other people got a different brand of milk because drinking milk at a friend's house always tasted different. Her grandparents did it too. Really weirded me out when I saw her mom just pour milk into an empty jug and mixing water with it. My dad's parents never told him to brush his teeth, and he told me that he used to eat a whole can of condensed milk every day as a kid. He still thinks it's perfectly normal. I don't know. And he just wondered why one day his teeth fell out. Only when he was in his 20s someone told him that brushing helps. My friend always thought jacking off was like messing around. When she was in middle school, a kid was commenting on how far along she was on an art project. In response, she said, maybe you'd be this far if you weren't jacking off all the time, in front of the whole class. And yet, she still only learned that wasn't what it meant her junior year in college. A family member thought that hallucinations were something everyone dealt with. They thought that monsters under the bed and other cultural tales of ghosts were real things, which were further confirmed by their experience. This led to later diagnosis of schizophrenia once they couldn't cope well enough to deal with the symptoms and it became evident to family members. My friend thought that everyone was regularly taking worming tablets to stop getting worms. It wasn't until she got married and told her husband she was going to go pick up their worming tablets that she found out it wasn't normal. Depends where in the world you live and how sanitary your surroundings are, I guess. My family has always had pets and we live in Africa, so my mom would buy dewormers twice a year and deworm the pets at the same time. If I travel to any tropical countries I usually deworm on my return as I eat street food. Until my early 20s, I thought lucid dreams were the norm. I cringed thinking of all the times I heard someone describe a bad dream and I said something along the lines of, why didn't you just change the dream? Growing up, I said this to several close family members, and not one told me that was weird. I lived with a girl that would eat baby powder that she had stashed in the drawer of the bathroom. She would walk by the bathroom and do quick shakes of the bottle right in her mouth. She would also buy whole frozen fish from Walmart and take them out of the freezer bag and slap them hard against the brick kitchen floor before cooking them in a stew. I read a post on here about this guy who was super sheltered growing up and was potty trained to get naked and sit on the toilet backwards. He always thought it was normal until he was in his late teens and was using a public washroom for the first time when a guy in the stall next to him noticed his feet are backwards and asked what the hell he was doing. I can't get that one out of my head, lol. I was roommates with a guy for several months and I began to notice he was a picky eater. I would always offer him food and he always declined, sometimes looking at the food in disgust. Admittedly, I'm an adventurous eater, often eating a lot of various ethnic foods and unusual stuff. After a while, I got curious enough to ask him about his diet and he opened up. The dude ate plain cheeseburgers, cheese pizza, mac and cheese, hot dogs, chicken nuggets, ice cream, and pretty much nothing else. He was about 25 at the time and had the diet of an 8-year-old. He openly admitted that he hated all vegetables and only ate bread, meat, cheese. He hated Mexican food, Chinese food, salads, and anything even slightly spicy. He thought I was the weird one and that I was just trying to be different by eating all this weird stuff. And for anyone asking, I completely understand this is not a healthy diet for anyone. When I said diet of an 8-year-old, I meant it's the diet that a lot of American 8-year-olds would choose for themselves if their parents didn't make them eat healthier. Also, the roommate did not grow up impoverished. His parents are actually fairly wealthy. In grade 5, our teacher was running a discussion about words and why it's important to choose the right words to express yourself during writing assignments. He asked what some of our least favorite words were and why, so we could expand our vocabularies. We're all taking turns until it gets to be my friend Paige's turn. She gives her favorite word and explains it's her favorite because of how sweet it is. We all just assumed she meant how nice it was. She then gives her least favorite word, explaining she hates how sour it is. At this point, the class is looking at each other going, she just said sour, right? Turns out she has a type of synesthesia, which is a rare condition that causes a person to taste certain tastes when speaking or even thinking certain words. She had lived her whole life thinking it was completely normal to taste words, because it's such a unique and strange thing that nobody would ever talk about it being a condition. She had tests done later that year, and there were actual chemical changes in her brain and saliva when certain words were said. Pretty fascinating. And for people who are curious as to what her least favorite words were, I contacted her to ask. She believes her favorite word at the time was cradle, as she still finds it very sweet. Her least favorite word was definitely harmonica, as it is so sour she can feel her tongue cramping in the back of her mouth. Since then, she's discovered her love of the word chartreuse, which is a color. She said it's a rick, chocolatey vanilla, almost like a Linda chocolate. She didn't realize until she tried wine in high school that she was tasting wine every time she said Guinea, but only when she's referring to the animal. She said her least favorite word is definitely still harmonica, but funnily she also never liked her own name, as she would compare the taste to kale, or some other dry, bitter lettuce.